Hi, everybody. This is Benjamin Krudwig from Benjamin Krudwig Fiber Arts and Design. And this is episode 9 of my fiber podcast, the Fibercast. It is March 20th, Friday, March 20th. It is the first day of spring. So happy spring, everybody. I have Bernadette, also known as Beans, in my lap today. She is done, apparently. So hi, everybody. I am starting slightly early, about 2 minutes early from 3:30. However, I'm starting half an hour later than I normally do. So I decided to try doing the podcast live at 3:30 on Friday this week, just to see if more people can show up and hang out for a little while. So to all returning viewers, welcome back. And to all new viewers, thank you for showing up. I hope you have a good time. This is a knitting and crochet and spinning and weaving podcast. Cat fur. So welcome to the Fibercast. There's sort of a normal week this week to talk about all the things that I've been doing. So I think I'm going to just start with some... I don't know what I want to start with. I guess I'll start with just like life stuff, just get that out of the way. So as many of you know, the last couple of weeks, my wife and I have been in the process of buying a house. So we are actually about a week and, well, about 2 weeks out from closing on the house. So we're going to be very busy between now and then. So I've been trying to keep up on Ravelry, just trying to keep up with messages and the board on Ravelry. So if I don't get to your message or your comment early or right away, it's not your fault. It's not my fault. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to get a whole bunch of things done. So that's that. I might do a podcast next Saturday instead of next Friday. No, I won't. Wait, will I? Maybe. I definitely won't be doing it on Friday. We're going to spend some time in the new house, I think, and see if we can get some stuff taken care of there. So Friday is out of the question for a podcast. So Saturday, I might do one, Saturday morning, and it will still be live. I'll do a live podcast. I'll let you all know once I know. So how messy my hair looks. Oh boy. I am growing my hair out still, and I'm having fun with it, but it's that weird wavy corkscrew hair, so sometimes it's fine and it's kind of on this direction, and then other days it's more on this direction into my eyeball. And it's been really dry here, so it's all staticky. So anyways, other things that are going on. Oh, so there will maybe be a podcast next Saturday. There will not be a podcast the following week because that is moving week. We will be moving. Yay! So I will definitely not be podcasting then. Everything will be in boxes. Everything will be a mess. So I'll keep you all informed whether or not there will be a podcast the week after that, which would be the second week of April. Other things that are going to be happening, April 1st, which is about a week and a half away, the Mozart Shawl Mystery Knit-Along starts. There are about 6 of us, I think, who are getting our yarns together and are going to do this Mystery Knit-Along together. I hope any of you who are on watching this decide to join. It's going to be a really wonderful Mystery Knit-Along. There are 3 clues, so it'll be 3 weeks of mystery clues. It is a shawl. It's a shawl that comes to probably about elbow length, depending on your gauge. And I do recommend doing a light worsted for the first 2 clues, and then I think I said an Aran weight for the third clue. If you don't have an Aran weight for the third clue, just use the light worsted all the way through. And if you don't have light worsted, you can use the Aran weight all the way through. You might want to go up a needle size if you do the Aran weight all the way through. So it's kind of up to you. Keep the stitch counts the same if you do go up in a hook size or a needle size. So that's happening in a week and a half. So I really hope that you all will join me. That would be so much fun if you guys would do that. So that's happening. And what else? Oh, so live stuff is out of the way. Let's kind of get going. I didn't mention this at the very beginning of the podcast, but you can find me as Benjamin Krudwig on Instagram and Twitter. You can find me at Benjamin Krudwig Fiber Arts and Designs on Facebook. And you can also find me as Benjamin Krudwig on Ravelry. So please friend me. Feel free to friend me. Oh my gosh, I love seeing what people are working on. So please do that. I also have a Ravelry group for Benjamin Krudwig Fiber Arts and Designs. So please join that. That's where all the stuff that's happening happens. And yeah, so please find me on all of those places. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. You'll get to find out when I post videos as soon as I post them. And I do have some videos planned soon for tutorial videos. Those won't happen though until after I move and we are in the new space, and I'm gonna have a new studio space. So excited. So that's great. I have, it's a weird, I don't have any works in progress. Well, that's okay. Let me back up. The big finished object that I have for this week is currently in the mail to California. So I unfortunately needed to mail this out before I could show you on the podcast, which is really sad. But I'm really, really excited to announce that I have finally released a new pattern. It is a crochet pattern. It's called Lady Sybil's Shawl, and that is Lady Sybil from Downton Abbey. So I was contacted by the Yarn Over Truck, who is from Burbank, California. They're a yarn store in a truck, and they drive around California and they go to fun events, and it just sounds like so much fun. So they contacted me and wanted me to create something using their exclusive colorway from Indigo Dragonfly Yarns, and I said yes, like you should when somebody asks you that. So they sent me 2 skeins of It's All Fun and Games Until Someone Sleeps with Someone Beneath Their Station, which is a Downton Abbey inspired colorway, in the Mergoat lace, which is a merino cashmere nylon blend, and it's a lace weight. It was kind of a daunting task at first. I don't usually work with lace weights in crochet, and it was specifically asked for a crochet pattern. So I rose to the challenge, and I now, you can see it on my Ravelry, in my Ravelry store, or on my personal Ravelry project page, Lady Sybil's Shawl. It's a beautiful kind of hyperbolic shape. It's like an hourglass, but sideways, I guess. So it's a long rectangular style shawl, and it was one of my favorite projects I've ever done. So I hope that you all enjoy it as much as I did. So yeah, and it looks like my wife is in the chat room on the YouTube channel. So if you are on the YouTube channel, as always, feel free to chat over there. Also, I think these show up as comments. They might not underneath. So sometimes I answer questions from the chat. So what I'm going to do is reiterate the comment or the question if somebody asks a question over there, and then I'll answer it. I realize that if there are not comments, people do not know what the heck I'm talking about when I answer a question if I don't repeat the question. So I will do that. So if you are all watching, please feel free, pop a question in the chat box to the right of the video, of the live stream video, and I will answer them at the end of the podcast. I have 2 questions already to answer today. Don't let me forget to do that. Oh yes, so the new pattern is available in my Ravelry store. It does take 2 full skeins. It's 1,260 yards, I believe, of lace weight yarn. And I love it. I absolutely love it. Ariana modeled the shawl for me, so her beautiful face, and you know, she's doing that in all those pictures. So that being said, having had such a great time working on this, I spent about 14 hours last weekend finishing it up. So my right arm is actually kind of, it pinched a nerve. So I think I was watching sort of a knitter podcast with Josh Ricks, and he did something very similar the weekend before last, and his arm and wrist were very sore. So we are in it together, Josh. I am feeling your pain, literally. So yes, please go if you are. So this shawl will be on the Yarn Over truck for the Los Angeles Yarn Crawl. I don't know exactly what locations they will be, like where they will be during the Yarn Crawl, but it's from the 26th to the 29th, so that's next weekend. If you are in the Burbank area, look for the Yarn Over truck, and you can see the finished shawl in person and try it on. It is so cozy. So check that out, please. Also, not yarn or knitting or anything related, but geekery related. I need to look at my notes for a second. So this is Burbank related, so this is not completely confusing. My friends, Scott Leslie and Emmy Watkins, moved out to the Los Angeles area last fall, and they are both actors working in LA. They are finally releasing a project that I'm so proud of them for and so excited for. I had the pleasure of reading a role last summer when we were doing a read-through of this script. They are doing a radio show. A good old-fashioned, well, good old, new old-fashioned radio show. And it's called Damned Paradise. It's kind of a sci-fi mystery, I guess, yeah, spooky horror, I don't know if you want to call it horror, radio show. And they are currently doing a Kickstarter. I will put this in the show notes, which will go up tomorrow, Saturday, the 21st. They are doing a Kickstarter to raise some funds for production costs. So if you feel like it, please go support them. Let them know that I sent you and see what we can do to help raise some funds for them. I don't want to pander to all of you, but it's definitely something that I'd love to support. So please head over to their Kickstarter, Damned Paradise. It's a radio show. It's going to be awesome. So I like the storyline. So if you want to listen to something like that, I know a lot of knitters love listening to podcasts and radio shows and stuff. So please check that out if you can. I would love to show some support for them. So thank you if you do. No pressure if you don't. So now that that's all out of the way, I do have a couple of other finished objects. So another thing that I was working on this week was an article that will be published next week. I believe next week on the Woolery Blog. I did a guest blog for them, and you'll see it then. So I did some weaving on the Zoom Loom, the Shacked Zoom Loom, which is, I work for Shacked and I help do all of their social media and blogging and such. And and I happen to love the Zoom Loom. The Zoom Loom is a 4" by 4" square pin loom, and you make woven squares that are about 4 inches. Really, it's about 3.75 inches after you wash the squares. So I made 8 squares this week with various yarns. So this is a bamboo wool blend. I believe this is called Spa. It's a Karen yarn, but I don't think they make this anymore, which is a bummer because it's beautiful and it was cheap-ish and it wove up beautifully. So if I could find any more of this, I would totally weave with it. So there are those 2. Here is some sock yarn. That I had lying around. And then this is from the same exact skein of yarn, but it's one of those self-striping yarns, and it has some like slightly marled look to it. So those are those 2. Here's universal yarn, bamboo pop. Let's see. I think my lighting seems a little off today, but I didn't really change anything about it. So maybe it's because they're sort of transparent. Yeah, bamboo pop. So that's a bamboo blend from Universal Yarn. And then this is just some brown sheep bordered with, I actually don't know it's an organic yarn, but I really enjoyed these ones. These were fun to do. So check out the Woolery blog next week at some point. I'll post on my Facebook and my Instagram when those go up. This made me, so Molly from A Homespun House and Kay Jones from the Bakery Bears podcast and Kristen from Yarngasm and I believe Danny from Little Bobbin's Knits, they're all doing little sock yarn blankets. So Molly calls it her Cozy Memories blanket, which I really love that idea of remembering all the little yarns that are in your blanket. I think the Little Yellow Uke. I watched an episode of that this week and I cannot remember her name and I forgot to write it down and I feel terrible. So I'm sorry, but I enjoyed your podcast and I saw that she's making one of those blankets too. It's a mitered square knit blanket. So as I was weaving these squares, I thought, oh my gosh, I should make my own Cozy Memories blanket with woven squares. I could totally knit it, I could totally crochet it, but I think it would be fun to do a woven one. It would be lighter weight than knitting or crochet, so that might be good for the fall or the spring. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to start saving my scraps, which I already do, but I think I'm going to start saving them with that in mind. The Zoom Loom is good for sock weight yarn. If it's a heavy lace weight yarn, it does just fine. And if it's a light worsted weight yarn, it does fine. Anything thicker or too thin, you're not going to get good results. If you do use a thin yarn, you could just double it up and that's fine, but you can't really like half a really thick yarn. So I am going to start working on that. I already have a jar full of yarn. So most of this is my hand spun. I have a couple in here that are commercial. This is an old candle, which is actually something that I have been having a ton of fun doing. So we burn a lot of candles in our apartment, and we kind of hit the end of a few of them recently. So all I do is, you know, there's like this much wax left in here, but the wick burns out. Sorry, I have the window open a little bit because it's gorgeous outside. So a FedEx truck is driving past. So these candle jars, once the wax, there isn't very much left in it. You boil some water, and then you pour the water into the jar. Let's see, I'll take the lid off until it reaches up here. And what happens is the wax that's left over will melt and float to the top because wax is less dense than water. It will float to the top. You'll let that cool and harden, and you'll just get like a hockey puck wax in the top of your jar. You can pop it out, and then generally there's a lot of soot and such in there. And before you put anything in your jar, back in your jar, you're going to want to scrub out the soot and any extra wax that's in there. Sometimes they glue the wick in. You just have to pop that off, and it usually pops right out. So I use mine to store my little leftover yarn balls. Also, this one, I haven't fully taken off the label, but I have my spinning wheel oil, I have a pair of scissors, and I have 2 of my flexible measuring tapes in there. So they're just really great for enclosed things because cats get into everything. And so I'm trying to keep as much as I can. And then another thing is this jar is actually a pretty special jar. Ariana and I created a big push pin board. What do you call that? Cork board. There's another word for it, and I can't. Go me. Anyways, so I have all of my future idea projects on one side in another color, or in one color, and then on the other color, and on the other side, it's all of my works in progress. So anytime I finish one of my works in progress, I can pull off the little card, and I'm putting it in my accomplishment jar. So this was the first one since we made the little board, and this was the yarn over truck shawl. So that one is in my jar of accomplishments. And as I keep finishing projects, I'm just going to keep putting them in this jar. So yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with that. So moving on to other things I am working on. So the only knitting and crocheting I did was for the yarn over truck shawl. The Lady Sybil shawl is all I worked on as far as that goes. And then I did the little weaving. What I am now working on is for my next article that I'm writing for Spinoff for their fall issue. So it's fall 2015. And I can't really tell you what I'm doing, but I can show you what I'm using. So I'll show you this part first. Here is some of my spun yarn. I think you can sort of see the shine. So this is Anzula Luxury Fibers. This is their blend of 50% Tencel and 50% merino, superwash merino. This one is in the colorway Cornflower. There we go. And this one is the colorway Nimbus. So I kind of don't want to spin anything other than this now that I've started spinning it. It is so beautiful. It just is, it looks like magic as it's coming out of my center pull ball, which I'm actually going to go into. But it's super easy to spin. It kind of reminds me of silk when spinning. If you're using like true silk and not silk nubs, like it just flows really easily. This is definitely top. I pre-drafted, oops, it's all kind of caught, my fiber. So I split the braid in half, and then I pre-drafted it to about a thumb thickness, maybe a finger thickness. And what I did was I used my ball winder to wind a center pull ball with my pre-drafted roving. This makes spinning go by very quickly. I went through about 2 ounces in a very short amount of time. I can't think of exactly how many hours or minutes or whatever it took, but I don't know if you could hear that, but Beans just meowed. She's desperate for some love. So this is the cornflower colorway, and then this is Nimbus. And I just love these together. They're just so luscious. Whoa. And seeing them all done up, like you can just see the shine of that tencel. Oh my gosh. So I'm spinning that together. Well, spinning one and then spinning the other. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm using my Shack Reeves, which, let's see. Hi, Beans. So you can see this is my 30-inch Ash Shack Reeves, which is a very productive wheel. And I adore using it, which is the goddess of spinning in Norse mythology. My mom's side of the family is pretty Norwegian, so trying to hold on to those roots. So other things I did this week. I think I'll be listing these in the shop. I'm not entirely sure, and I'm missing one somewhere. I will. I made some magic balls. I may be posting these in the shop this weekend. So these are a bunch of different yarns. The ones that I made this last week were all plant fiber. So this is all cotton, bamboo. There might be some like nylon or acrylic in this, but most of it is cotton or bamboo. This outer one is some hand-dyed cotton that I dyed. I just don't use cotton all that much anymore, so I just wanted to kind of de-stash, but instead of just de-stashing, I decided to make some fun magic balls. So I'll figure out what I'm going to do with these. Here's another one that's pretty fun. This one's probably my favorite. It's a bright green and blue ball. And then here's one that is more kind of blues and teals and greens. I swear I have another one somewhere. And I just totally misplaced it because that's what I do. So another thing that I am working on, well, I'm going to be working on soon, I ripped out a project, and this is with my hand spun. Gosh, this is really dark. So this is some fiber from Spunky Eclectic. I am part of their Fiber of the Month Club, which they're doing the 20 questions over on their Ravelry page. And I am really excited to see what this month, what the Fiber of the Month is. So I'll be able to see that soon. Those should probably come to me next week, is my guess. So be on the lookout for that, because I am sure I will be mentioning that. So anyways, I was making a scarf with a pattern that I was making up with this yarn. I've decided, so I'm going to start knitting a pair of socks for myself. And I'm going to use the fiber that the ladies from Come Knit With Us sent me for winning one of their giveaways. And I am going to practice on that yarn. I'm pretty confident that I can make a pair of socks. I'm a pretty proficient knitter. I think my biggest issue is going to be figuring out gauge and making sure that it fits my foot well. Then I decided after I do that pair, I'm going to make a pair of like fall or winter socks with this fiber. I'm going to have to make sure that I have enough to do that. But it's definitely going to be a pattern, and I'm so excited. I am so excited to look at that, or to work on this. So yeah, that's all I've been really working on this week. I mean, it's a ton of stuff that I've been working on. One moment, having the window open, I'm just gonna move the window closed a little bit so Beans. She had her head pretty much completely out the window, so I would rather not lose her. She's totally unimpressed with me. So I was busy this week, but not on very many objects. This coming week, I'm going to be much busier. I'm going to start back on working on the tectonic knit shawl, cowl. Well, it's both. You can do both with that pattern. So I'm going to work on that. I have the mystery knit along is coming along, so I'm finalizing the last clue on that one. Sorry, getting distracted by a cat was very easy. And then I'm pretty sure that's all I'm going to work on in that realm. And then I have the spin-off article that I'll be working on quite a bit this week. And I think I'm going to cast on the socks. So I think I need to get sock needles, though. I don't think I have a pair of needles that are, or at least a pair of double points. I might have a small pair of circulars that I could do magic loop. So I might do that. Those are future projects. And then I have a whole bunch of other patterns in my head that I want to do, but I'm gonna wait. I need to get the right yarn for it. So I'll be on the lookout for that. So I'm gonna go into questions first. So I got a question last podcast, or it might be 2 podcasts ago, and somebody asked me, do I watch any Canadian podcasts? I think Smells Like Yarn is Canadian, and I believe Eat, Sleep, Stitch is Canadian. There's another podcast that I've watched, and I can't remember for the life of me what the name was, and she hasn't updated in about a month or so. So I'm gonna have to look back through what I've watched and find out what her information is. And I also kind of wonder why she hasn't updated in a while. So yeah, I do watch Canadian podcasts. It just so happens that very many of my podcasts that I watch are English podcasts, like they're UK-based podcasts. I will tell you, I just started watching a few more podcasts this week. Somehow last weekend, because I crocheted for 14 hours, I watched a ton of podcasts. But I'll get to those after I answer another question. This one comes from Ravelry, so I actually think I need to open up the Ravelry page. Beans is such a troublemaker right now. She is playing with a tambourine that is on our shelf. Oh boy. You know, cats these days. So I did, oh, it Smells Like Yarn is in Michigan. Okay, thanks, Andrea. He sounds Canadian, but I guess that might be my bias. So he's in Michigan. Okay. That helps, actually. Okay. I'm getting in to my Ravelry. I don't have both computers up right now, so I decided to go a little simple today. Um, so I put in a thread in Ravelry um, called Ask Me Anything. And so this is basically, you can ask me a question and I will answer on the podcast. Um, let me take a look at, oops. Apparently I'm really, really blind. So I have a question here, and I'm not gonna post her name um, on this podcast because I didn't ask permission, but she is on Ravelry. So she was asking, she said, I was fascinated by your discussion on singles and plying handspun yarn. Um, so she knows very little about spinning. Would you suggest newbies start with a spindle or try to find a wheel to start spinning? Here's what I recommend. If you want to learn how to spin or learn more about spinning, I would suggest looking for a local yarn store or a local fiber store that has a spinning teacher or a spinning class. They are going to be so helpful. They're going to be a great resource that you can use over and over and over again. And you make that connection with them. More often than not, they will start you on a drop spindle. Spinning requires a lot of simultaneous actions, and it's a lot of multitasking overall, where you're treadling and you are drafting your fiber and you're checking twist and you're making sure that everything goes smoothly. With drop spindling, you do have the option of doing the park and draft method. So you spin, get some twist into your yarn, you park the spindle, and then you start drafting out the fiber and let the twist run up the fiber. I think that if you are somebody who learns quickly or who prefers to have your legs in on a task as well as your hands, go ahead and start learning on a wheel, but be prepared for some frustration. Oftentimes, wheels can be very finicky or very hard to learn or get used to if you're not used to a wheel. There's a lot of like take up and pull that you don't have on the drop spindle. You have a piece of machinery here that is going to do a lot of, not a lot, but it's going to do the spinning work for you. You're just drafting and moving your feet. So I would recommend starting with a spindle. If you don't have a yarn store nearby, I would start with a drop spindle and some nice kind of grabby fiber like BFL or merino. It's soft, but it has a lot of crimp. So it's going to give you something that's going to be easier to spin than, say, silk or cotton or a long wool. You know, it's going to be a nice medium grade fiber for you to learn how to spin on. So definitely, I would suggest starting with a spindle. If you're by yourself, definitely start with a spindle. Don't make a purchase of a spinning wheel without knowing how to spin, is kind of my opinion. Some people do it, and I have gotten calls on people who have done it, and good for them. I'm so excited for them. But a spinning wheel is a very large investment, not just like the wheel itself, but all the fiber. You know, spinning is not a cheap hobby to have if you own a wheel. If you get a drop spindle, they're about 20 some odd bucks and up for good drop spindles. And fiber you can get for maybe anywhere from $10 to $20 for 4 ounces of fiber. So it's not that expensive if you use a drop spindle. Fiber can get very expensive very quickly, but if you watch price tags, then don't worry about it too much. Don't use felting. wool for spinning. It's not going to feel good and it's going to give you some trouble. So don't go that cheap. But definitely, I think you can find some cheaper wool to spin, to learn how to spin. So that's something that I would recommend. I thought I saw another question. I don't remember seeing it earlier. Never mind. I did not see that question. Oy vey. So yeah, if you have any other questions, please pop them into the Ravelry page. I'm very intrigued to see what kind of questions you have, and please ask me, literally ask me anything. I'm happy to answer questions on Fiber. I'm happy to answer questions on marketing. I'm happy to answer questions in my personal life. I mean, to an extent, my opinions on things. I am up to I'm up to answering pretty much anything. So please ask some questions. Also, any of you who were not here before and are joining me now, if you have any questions, please ask me on the chat side. I am keeping an eye of the chat thing on the side. But I'm going to let you know about some awesome podcasts that I've been watching this week / listening to. Some of them I did more listening than I did watching. So I watched Little Bobbin's Knits with Danny, FO and Die with Dave and Ellie, and I actually just started watching the most recent episode this morning. Ellie is flying solo on that one, so I hope Dave is, having fun doing whatever he's doing. Fluffy Fibers by Isabel. She is in France, I believe. Yeah, so she talks a lot about organic or naturally based fibers and naturally dyed fibers and yarns. She sews, she knits, she crochets. I really enjoyed her podcast this weekend. So check her out, Fluffy Fibers. And I watched the Yarngasm podcast with Kristen, Woolenvine Yarns. The Knitting Den with Denise. Homespun House by Molly. She, her podcast is just always so relaxing. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like I could get a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. I love watching hers in the morning. It's just like perfect way to either wake up or just kind of relax for a little while. This is not necessarily a podcast, but this is something that I watch frequently. Jennifer Beamer from Expertly Dyed Art by Science has quite a few tutorials, spinning tutorials and fiber, like in-depth looks at different fiber types. So I would check out her channel definitely if I were you. Expertly Dyed is, I think, the main channel name, and then it's Expertly Dyed Art by Science by Jennifer Beamer. Minerva Turkey Knits. I watched her podcast. She just finished a gorgeous shawl, so you should definitely check that out. Her name is Shannon, I believe. Shannon? Yes. Sort of a Knitter with Josh Ricks. I watched Stitched in Sweden by Maria, and she is in Sweden. She's in... Oh my gosh, I totally fail at remembering place names. Oh well, okay. Shyamalan Maya. I don't know where she's from or where she podcasts from. I always blank on that. I love her podcast. It's very earthy, very real podcast. And I accidentally spelled her podcast or her channel name wrong the last couple of times. So that's my bad for not typing in the right words. But the link to her podcast is right. So do check that out if you want to look at the show notes from last couple of weeks. And then they'll be in the show notes this week. The Junk Yarn Podcast. I remembered your name this week. her podcast is fun. She is working on a little sweater for her wedding, which I think is happening at the end of this year or at the beginning of next year. I think it's January. And she is using some Anzula yarn to do it. And I think it's Anzula yarn squishy and doing also Nebula. And then she has some like Halo Angora yarn from Broco maybe? I don't remember the other one, but if she's watching this, I recommend just Anzula all the way, especially if you're going to do beads. I think the beads make it lost in that Halo Angora. So that's just my 2 cents. Do what you want to do, but I definitely think that you should do the just straight up Anzula. So I hope you do that. It's kind of a short podcast. It's a 45-minute podcast this week. If you don't have any questions, then I am going to head out and probably do some spinning. For all of you who want to know what I'm drinking today, this is some iced tea I hurriedly made. It's Celestial Seasonings, Country Peach Passion, and Lemon Zinger. Yeah, if you want to know what tea I was drinking. So thank you for watching. Please go check out my new pattern over on Ravelry. Find me on all the social medias. Instagram is probably my more active social media. I enjoy Tumblr. I am always on Ravelry. Please message me, join the group, get some chatter going. I love this community that I'm building and that you're building with me. So find me there. And yeah, I will keep you all apprised of what I'm going to schedule next week's podcast. And then after that, when the next podcast is going to be. So thank you for watching. Keep on hooking, keep on knitting, keep on weaving, keep on spinning. Just keep on doing your fiber things. It's good for you. So thank you again. I appreciate you watching. Bye.